Team Liquid. With an epic comeback so far. This is Taeja. Let's see if you can go all the way. And to the bottom left, we have his opponent for Quantic Gaming. It is Hyun.
And on top of the fact that he's lost 2 in a row, that last one was just the most frustrating way to lose a ZvT, because he did so much damage with that Roach Bane. He knew he was in total control of the game, but just he tried to establish his economy and his tech all at once, and Taeja hit that little timing window. And just you did so much damage, the game is in your hands, and then just let it slip away like that to such a small group of units. Seems like it should be totally innocuous, and then it kills everything.
Yeah.
So Hyun can't be in a particularly happy place right now.
Yeah, not at all. It always looks like you are going to crush your opponent like any seconds, and you thought that you crippled him, and suddenly you see those units streaming and you're like, well, I guess I don't have anything to defend here.
Yep.
So in this game, we would expect to see Hyun going more for the macro style that he showed us in the initial 2 games where he was able to win against his opponent. And I'm really interested to see what exactly Taeja is going to do.
Looks like it's going to be a CC first. He's got a couple SCVs queued up. He hasn't put down a barracks yet, so will indeed be CC first.
Would have been pretty bold of him to go, let's say, into an 11-11, for example. That would have been quite the epic conclusion for this game.
Yeah, it would have been kind of interesting. I don't think Hyun drone scouted once on Newkirk, but the other 3 games, I believe he didn't. So that may have actually been a pretty good choice to do so.
Hyun heads, of course, into his, well, as you would expect, into the hatch first. He's getting the pool right away behind this, so he's not squeezing any additional drones out.
Yep, and also not putting down a gas, so actually playing safer against 2 racks, a little bit more risky against a Reaper opening, as is. It turns out to be a CC first. We see no gas at all yet. He could still put it down by 17 supply, but it's getting pretty late. It's looking like he might be opening up gasless.
For Taeja, on the other hand, we have the refinery now coming up. And I'm really interested to see what style Hyun is going to show us here. I feel that he has to go into that Lingmida Baneling style. He was so successful with it, even in the games where he was behind against Taeja. Sometimes he was more than a full set of upgrades behind his opponent, and he still bought himself the time that he needed to get back into business. So that seems to be exactly the style that he should use against Taeja. But the Terran player, as we discussed earlier, has gained a lot of momentum throughout the series now that he won 2 games in a row. And this is what he all comes down to. And I can actually see just Taeja also talking a little bit with TLO, because TLO seems to have a fairly good grasp on what exactly Hyun is doing and what he will most likely do in those games.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. It's kind of an interesting aspect of it. I believe Hyun's the only Quantic player here. I don't think I've even seen like a coach or a manager or anything around with him, so he's kind of much more on his own, whereas TLO and Taeja and whatnot have that support system to help him out and talk him through some of the games. And that helps a lot, especially when you're down 0-2 for some people, to really have someone to kind of right your mind and get you back in the game and stuff. Some people really benefit from that.
Yeah, I mean, 2 people that we can actually point out, both of them not here, but Sas and Naniwa are 2 of the players who always talk to each other after these games and try to come up with a few things that you could do. They know each other so well that that helps quite a lot. So we might actually see that between TLO and, of course, Taeja as well, just trying to help him out a little bit and give him a bit of an idea of what TLO expects from a player like Hyun. You can definitely assume that TLO studied a lot of Hyun's style as well. I mean, he's one of the most successful Zerg players out there right now. So analyzing his style is something that probably everyone has done at some point.
Yep, I'm pretty sure that everyone has a good idea how Hyun plays at this point. He's just been, well, he's been such a prolific player for so long. We actually see double barracks coming down immediately. So this is looking like, I forget which map he did it on, but he's already done it once where he just moved into a very quick, it was on Whirlwind, where he moved into a very quick Marauder Marine Widowmine medevac attack. And with those 2 more barracks coming out, it definitely seems like he's headed up towards something like that again. And in that game, it actually took out the 3rd base, but Hyun already had 5 hatcheries, so that wasn't the biggest deal, and Hyun ended up turning into a macro game that he won pretty easily.
Yeah, and for Hyun, we have that 3rd base now coming up, and he also added the extra gas. With the queens on the map, he's just spreading his creep as much as he can, and that will help him, especially on such a map like Star Station. You have so many angles where you can attack, especially that 3rd base. It is so exposed. Having a really good creep spread here helps you so much to defend against these attacks. Because first of all, you have to know that it's coming, and that's where creep tumors really come into play.
Yeah, they give you that scouting information. They also allow you to set up counterattacks, let you set up flanks. Really, just the mobility is so important, particularly The harder it is to actually gain that mobility and to gain that creep spread, the more beneficial it almost always is, because when there's lots of different paths, mobility becomes even more important. So it's really a nice kind of risk-reward kind of thing for the Zerg player.
Hellions, of course, designed to shut that down in particular. The Roach Drone is coming into play once more, but with already 52 harvesters, this is not going to be like a massive amount of aggression. This looks more like we just have a bit of a defense set up here for Hyun.
Yeah, double evolution chamber already up and upgrades beginning, as well as the lair, so definitely not going to be any kind of super aggression from Hyun this time. He is just playing for a macro game. And with that Roach Warren, it's interesting. It could be a big Roachling Baneling kind of playstyle as we saw in Whirlwind, or the Roach Warren could just be purely defensive, or even a scare tactic in case Taeja happens to scout it.
Yeah, the +1 attack upgrade has been started for melee. And we have the Hellions still. The Queen's actually a little bit reluctant to really engage here, but 3 Roaches are being built, and the 3 Roaches alone are already in a position where they can just force those Hellions back, of course, always with the help of the Queens. Overlord in the main base is getting a decent view on the tech structures here.
And now it's really interesting what he saw there. He saw the factory with the reactor, he saw a single barracks, and he saw the reactor on the starport. So that's very limited information that doesn't really tell him anything about the 3 racks play.
And he drops the Baneling Nest right away, gets into a 4th hatch, and started a bunch of Roaches as well. So I feel that, I mean, he has the lair tech completed. We see now the Zerglings coming in, but so far, I mean, what do you think he's going to do here? Is he going to drop the Spire, or will we actually see him commit to this?
I think he got enough information, or at least he has the feeling that this kind of attack is coming. So for the time being, he's just going to make a ton of units and hope to crush this attack. And then from there, I see him putting up a Spire if he doesn't want to just Roach Bane all in.
Yeah, the Roaches alone are very much exposed here. They cannot do too much. He could have moved back with those, sacrificing that 4th base, but the Roaches are eliminated, and he can't save this hatch anyways. Doesn't even cancel here.
Yeah, lots of 300 minerals there for him. A lot of Ling Baneling coming out, a few Roaches there as well. And this is really not a particularly scary army from Taeja. He doesn't have any Widow Mines there. He doesn't have any Hellbats or anything to help clear up the Lings. He has to be really careful about these Baneling hits.
Yeah, and he's lifting immediately into the Medivacs, now speed boosting into the main base, trying to do some damage here, but Hyun is already on the way to defend, has the units on the high ground, the Queens on the low ground, trying to take down the hit points of the Medivacs. The Zerglings streaming in, and this is the time where Taeja really has to speed boost away, but he's losing one of the Medivacs with units.
That's a pretty big blunder by Hyun, by Taeja. That really shouldn't happen. And he's just losing more and more Marines, and he's getting absolutely nothing from this. He got a Queen kill, a few unit kills. He did get that 1 hatchery, which is really good, but overall, that was not worth it at all. We don't even see a 3rd base from Taeja yet.
Yeah, it could have even been a lot better if Hyun would have just cancelled that base, but Hyun is now going into the +2 melee upgrade. He's going into armor, speed for Roaches, speed for Banelings. He's getting a lot of Lings out there. He's really moving across the map. What was that, actually?
That was a Widow Mine, I believe.
There is no Widow Mine. Did that Widow Mine be... was it killed by the Baneling? I can't...
yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, Widow Mine blew up like 3 Banelings or so, and then the Banelings, of course, hit the Widow Mine and destroyed that. But yeah, he was actually making pure Zerglings for a while, and he hasn't taken the 3rd and 4th gas at his 3rd base. So it's kind of looking like he may want to do another big Roachling, Baneling timing like he did on Whirlwind. And that game was incredibly successful. And this game, Taeja is continuing to move out as he did there, and that was what set up that attack on Whirlwind. So it's looking like we might see a repeat of that.
Yeah, Roaches are now on the tap. We have the armory started, so Taeja can access +2/+2. His own set of upgrades is nearly completed. He's moving onto the creep once again, scanning ahead, taking down those tumors, but a massive amount of units is currently built for Hyun. He has the army supply lead here with 65 to 54, is setting that up, and his speed is going to kick in just in time to deal with this.
Yeah, and Taeja has to be really careful here. If he loses those units as he did in the previous game, he might just get rolled over again.
Yeah, and really nice, once again, killing that base without a cancel for Hyun. Very annoying for the Quantic Zerg here. And this is just one of those strengths that he can just exploit on this map, that you have so many paths to go down to those bases.
Yep, also the lack of anti-air for Hyun, as always with any non-muta build, very hard to deal with those medevacs, and Taeja taking full advantage of it. We're just constantly running in and sniping the hatchery. If he just picked up and ran away the first time, it would have been perfect, but now he's being a little bit smarter about that. And
Siege Tank switch now for Taeja. He knows, of course, exactly about the unit composition that we have on the map, so the Siege Tanks will give him a lot of safety for his 3 bases, and later on he can move out with them too. But the defensive means of the Siege Tanks much more important here in this scenario, now that he's taking his 3rd base.
Yep, an excellent choice on his part to go into those tanks. As you said, they help defend against any kind of big all-in that we might see, which he definitely has to fear. And the big thing is that they slow down your attack timing, but against roaches that doesn't matter. You don't want to be attacking into roaches because they're incredibly efficient in the early mid-game, but as you get later on in the game, then they just kind of fall off. So Taeja is entirely happy to sit there in his base while he drops around and then move out once he gets that critical mass of tanks.
And Taeja has the bank in minerals, so for him getting that third base up is really important since he has now access to the 5th and the 6th gas, and that will help him so much with this. He's getting another factory here, he's adding a lot more production, he's going into +2/+2. Hyun is still a little bit ahead in the upgrades, but that's something that Taeja will be able to equalize because Hyun just doesn't have the infestation pit and no hive tech in sight yet.
Yeah, that's definitely going to become a problem for Hyun as the game goes on. He's playing his style. We see so many roaches and so many banelings. It's a mid-game style. He wants to be attacking, he wants to be doing damage, but there's just not much of an opening for it.
Where do you go from there? I mean, he will see that there are so many siege tanks of his opponent. Does he really just try to move in, or what can he do?
You either do an all-in, which in this case doesn't look like it's going to work too well, although he's making a ton of extra banelings, so that is what he's going to do.
38. That puts him up to 50, 61. 71.
And he sees a double medevac drop headed out right across his army to counterattack. I don't know, that might be kind of a bad decision by Taeja. He really just needs to defend this and he wins. He doesn't need to be doing damage at the same time.
So many siege tanks, so many bunkers. The counter-attack to the bottom left. Here comes Hyun with everything that the Swarm has to offer. The Banelings moving in. Great hit so far by the siege tanks, but the Zerg is moving through. Hyun is trying to take this out. Most of the siege tanks already gone, or the last one left on the high ground. The bunkers are just evaporating as well. Resources lost much in favor of Taeja, of course. And the counter-aggression that we see of the Zerg, of the Terran player, is taking down another base. Hyun is losing the momentum here. He still has a bank. He's trying to utilize it. He's getting 50, 60 additional Zerglings right now. But things are looking pretty desperate for Hyun.
Yeah, he is still stuck on lair tech. His upgrades are not amazing. He really just has no real recourse. He was very, very set on that attack, doing significant damage, and he killed a lot of SCVs, but I mean, he has mules, he already has another 2-base income, and Taeja just scales so much better in the late game. That is the problem with these compositions. Taeja's gonna run around dropping, he has those tanks out, he has full vision of his opponent, and there's nothing that Hyun can actually do about the mobility of these medevacs, plus he now has the firepower of those very well upgraded bio forces.
Hyun has 60 army supply against 90 now, so his overall supply a little bit misleading because he has so many drones. He's trying to now transition into the infestation pit, into the hive tech. He's getting the +1 attack upgrade for his roaches here. He's trying to get those out. Taeja on the way to get 3-3 on the middle of the map, still trying to do damage here. Could pick up any second. That's exactly what he does. Once again, coming into play here is the lack of anti-air. There is nothing that can deal with those medevacs, and this gives Taeja just the mobility that he needs and always the option to just load into the medevacs and fly away.
Yeah, and this is the problem this style always faces, and Hyun usually is able to just brute force his way through it. He actually really likes playing this style. He does it a lot ZvT, and against most players, he just kind of has so many units and uses them so well that it doesn't matter the inherent weaknesses of the style. But against Taeja, you can't really do that. His mechanics are just as good as Hyun's, and he can keep up with them. So the weaknesses of the style become more apparent.
Hyun's still on 200 supply, and he is not only maxed out, but he's also now getting that hive tech and should maybe even start in the base. So the economy for him is great. He has a 1,500 mineral bank. He's getting his army up here again. And looking at the army supply, we actually have both of them now nearly dead even. The 3-3 upgrades for Taeja not going to play a role in the next battle. Hyun still has a chance here with a good fight. He can take down this army, and that hive tech is going to finish at some point.
Yeah, it's a little bit unnecessary, a little bit premature by Taeja to move out, but I don't know. If I were him, I would really much rather wait for the 3-3 and wait for those extra 2 tanks to finish and just secure that 4th base instead of exposing his army. Because the one way he loses here is if this army actually kills him.
And the army is now moving in, trying to make this happen. Those siege tanks exposed, and Hyun for now is ignoring them, detonating the banelings now into the tanks, taking them down. A 30 supply lead for the Zerg player, delaying the 4th of his opponent with a burrowed Zergling, moving in and trying to chase down as many of these units as he possibly can. 3-3 has been started for Hyun now that hive tech has been reached, and of course, as an additional attack, we immediately see that Ultralisk Cavern on the production tab.
But if we look at his gas, he only has 300 banked at the moment, and he has that 4th base running now, but he's been running those bases for quite some time. They don't have a ton of resources left at them. He's not really going to have a lot of Ultralisks out on the field, even if that tech completes.
Yeah. Well, at least he starts his Pathogen Glance now as well, so once he has the 3-3, he doesn't have to spend any gas anymore for the upgrades. That's going to help him a little bit, but you're right, he doesn't have that bank, and Adrenal Glance now also been started, so that costs another 200. Here we have that push to the right side. Taeja is trying to take down another base, and if he succeeds, that would be horrible for Hyun. Here comes that army, the siege tanks being set up in the back, the Banelings trying to roll in. Taeja is taking down so much of Hyun's supply. Hyun might lose the third game in a row against Liquid. Taeja is getting a bloody nose in that fight, has to retreat with the rest of his units, but things are looking really bad for him now that the 3-3 is done for the Terran player, and the space to the right side is completely exposed.
Yeah, that was the final tipping point. You cannot lose battles if you're playing a roach-based style ZvT. Your strength is in the mid-game fights, so the moment you start to actually lose those battles, you really don't have anything going for you. And short of Taeja messing this up completely, it's his game to lose.
Yeah, Hyun needed the time to get the 3-3 upgrades out, to get Adrenaline Glance, to get Chitinous Plating and the Ultralisk, but this is not going to happen anymore in this game. He is 60 supply down. In army supply, we have 46 against 133. Taeja is just waiting for his reinforcements. He is leapfrogging forward with those siege tanks, and Hyun is trying what he can, building additional banings, but this is it. GG and game. Liquid Taeja advances to the round of 8 at the Asus ROG Summer 2013, and Hyun has to go into the consolation match against TLO after being ahead.